It's a people, it's a community, it's a life, it's a heart, it's a spirit.
Parents of gay children say, I want my son, my gay son, to have the same opportunity to come to me and say, hey, Dad, I'm getting married, as my non-gay son or my non-gay daughter.
The heck would you want a picture of a tattoo of $1,000 on your penis for?
You might just need to satisfy yourself sexually alone at that point.
Do I regret it? Not one bit. Did I think that I would actually take it the next step and do it again?
And what goes into their life, how they handle it. There are 12 houses, and each one of those houses has a particular function.
Look into yourself, think about it, and just be whoever it is that speaks to you.
I'm John Griffith, your host. Today I have a very special guest who has been through a lot in his lifetime, and he is going to be sharing his story with us today. Justin Reed Early, welcome.
Thank you.
And your story, which you've also put into your book, Street Child.
Yes.
Okay, so again, welcome. I mean, I'm really, really grateful that you took the time to sit with me for this, because when I read your book the other day, and I did read it start to finish in one sitting.
Right.
Just, I mean, that's just what an incredible journey you've been on in your life. And you know, journeys have a beginning, so the essentials of where your story begins is?
Well, I think that I think it's important for me to articulate where my story is now. I mean, I think there came a point in my life where I needed to stand up for something and make something of my story. I think that there's a lot of uncomfortable issues that I've discussed in Street Child. It's a story of abuse. It's a story of living on the streets. It's a story of prostitution, murder, and all of these issues are happening with kids, you know. So I think that it was important for me to tell a story of a lot of other kids that didn't make it off the streets, and sort of honor their lives, because, you know, a lot of the ones that I talk about in Street Child weren't even a statistic. So they haven't been remembered at any kind of level.
Right.
So, yeah, that's how I was inspired to write it.
Okay. And, well, I mean, you do a very good job of honoring those, you know, who shared your journey and, you know, weren't fortunate enough to complete it and build a better life for themselves.
Right.
But back to a little bit about that journey.
Well, I think, you know, I think that there's a lot that can be learned and taught with this journey. I think that for me to make sense of it and to heal from it, that I needed to share it with others so that I could, you know, tell people what's going on. I think that I really wanted to raise awareness to the issues of youth homelessness. It's still happening today in epidemic numbers. Kids are living on the streets, and you know, for whatever reason, I mean, there's many reasons that contribute to youth homelessness and homelessness as a whole, but a lot of the issues that I define clearly in my book, and for my own specific situation, I raise awareness to the LGBT element, which as a result of a lot of the belief systems that are in place in society, families tend to throw away their children when they suspect or discover that their children are gay or lesbian. Right. Which is what happened in my case with my father.
Okay. And at what age did
I think he suspected at a very early age, and that's why there was so much conflict between he and I. I wasn't the most masculine child, you know. I just wasn't. They wanted me to do football and all the stuff, and I did not do that. And I think that you know, there were some other signs. Okay. I took note and, you know, worked on that, but, you know, not before they found out. Okay. But yeah, yeah.
So just through the lack of acceptance, or just butting heads?
Well, I think that, yeah, I think that when people are taught to hate, you know, they call it compassionate hatred. You know, I think they're not taught to hate now, but these are the belief systems that are passed down generationally. It happens with sexism, racism,
Right.
homophobia. These are all beliefs that are taught down from the people that we trust: teachers, preachers, family, mothers, fathers, uncles, aunts, sisters, brothers. And this is the information that was taught to my family, to my father.
Okay, and you're not an only child.
I'm not. I had two brothers.
Okay, and you saw this being passed down again,
I
yet
did.
again?
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a heavy influence of these teachings with me as well as a child. Yeah, all this information was coming my way.
Okay, in any particular manner?
Well, I think just in the day-to-day life
Okay.
and day-to-day living, I call it, I had a word for it, but I can't think of it right now. It wasn't that we were like being taught to hate, you know, like okay, we're gonna hate these people today, but just like in family discussions, you know, the racial slurs would come up, or you know, homophobic slurs would come up, and
So the N word, the F word.
absolutely. And so that's the information that was being taught. Or, you know, I have a black friend, and my dad would be like, you know, you're not going to have that person in my house, or, you know, that kind of stuff.
So very subtle when you're at an impressionable age.
Right. Right.
So and you were younger than 10.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and this all came to a head at what point?
At about 10.
At about
At about
10?
10. Yeah, my father was an alcoholic. He was violent. He was violent with my brothers. That behavior was now starting to transcend onto me. I was getting an age where I was old enough to conflict with my father.
Okay.
So we started having the arguments and the fights, and he became physically abusive. And I just I was the child that wasn't going to tolerate it, you know. And I ran away several times, and then finally there was a physically abusive altercation where he punched me, and that's where I went into state custody. I went into foster care and group homes, and yeah,
So and this is at the age of 10.
that was at 10.
So basically, you're cut off from your family,
Yes.
and this is partially, well, I mean, partially your choice by running away from a
Correct.
bad situation.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, not. I'm not trying to minimize the bad situation.
Right.
It was obviously not healthy either way.
Right.
But is there potential to go from bad to worse there, or were you placed in a better place? And
I wasn't, you know, and I talk a little bit about it in my book, and I'm not knocking foster care. The homes that I went to were temporary homes, so they weren't real homes that were permanent for me or someone like me. So I don't think that they were conducive to what I was looking for. I wanted a family environment. I was a child that just wanted that unit.
right.
So, you know, I went to the larger group homes. They thought that would be better for me, and that's where I met like the other bad kids, you know,
Okay.
and started becoming a bad kid, and that was kind of what I thought that I needed to do in order to get back at my family and get back at everyone.
Is that, or at least of the time, is that sort of a typical mentality that can develop in a group home?
I think so. I think, you know, if you talk to any behavioralists, that, you know, as far as like the issues that I was experiencing at home, and the kind of attention that I was receiving, that kids in my predicament would tend to go in that direction when they don't have proper positive role models and mentors in their lives. That's the direction that they go.
So, or can it be just any attention, positive or negative, is attention?
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah, I preferred, you know, I think the negative attention that I received carried a little more weight in the environment that I was in. Definitely made you more noticed, more respected among the other kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more trouble you got in, the cooler you were.
Well,
You know,
so you were cool.
that was cool. Yeah.
But I mean, was that from group home to group home as well?
It was from group home to group home, and then in one of the group homes, I met a young boy that told me about a street community in downtown Seattle where there were street kids, and they all survived on their own, and it sounded very interesting to me. So he agreed to take me down there and so I could check it out. And so we ran away from one of the group homes, and we went to downtown Seattle, and that's where I met my new family, my new community of kids that were living on the streets, and they all came from different, socioeconomic backgrounds, but they were all there for the same reason. That's they didn't have anywhere else to go.
And this was in the early 80s?
It was in the early 80s, 1980, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, to being at about the age of 10, effective, if on your own but not on your own, with other kids, no structure?
No structure.
No education, no rules,
rules.
Well, were there rules?
There's street rules, and you learn those as you go. I was very naive when I hit the streets.
Well, you were 10.
When I was 10. But what I did have going for me was I was a cute kid, and I was a good kid, and people really liked me, and they wanted to take me under their wings. So people fed me, let me stay in their motels or whatever. I stayed with, I wrote about it in my book. There were a lot of prostitutes that kind of took me under their wings, and they would let me stay in their hotel rooms and motel rooms. And people looked out for me and taught me street culture.
Which involves?
Well, it involves, a lot of different levels of respect, but also, drug use, drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, stealing, prostitution.
Yeah, I mean, was there sort of a snowball effect? One thing led to another, led to another, led to another?
Absolutely.
And just, what kind of progression is that?
Well, the progression, it depends on the person, it depends on what you're doing. I think for me, I progressed fairly fast because I was very angry and hurt at my family, and I had never really been taught how to take care of myself, and had really never received the parenting that that children need in order to learn to respect themselves and love themselves and respect others and love others. So I didn't have any concept of that. So it was really easy for me to not take care of myself and to do things that were very destructive. So when the drugs became a part of my life, I was very open to them. And
is it a matter of acceptance? Is it a matter of numbing things? What's?
I think a little of both. I think that they're part of the culture because you do need to be numbed. There's a lot of painful things going on the streets. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of loss. There's a lot of people coming in and out of your lives. There's a lot of being institutionalized, whether it's in a group home, foster home, juvenile detention, or jail. So there's just a lot going on, and it's very painful to not have an attachment to a family unit.
Well, there's the family you're born into, and there's the family you make. Were you able to sort of build a pseudo family?
I think we did, but it's still a street family.
Right.
And it's still street culture, so it's not the unconditional positive love that you'll receive from the family unit, a biological or foster family. You still need to watch your back.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, is there or was there just a line where it's the point of no return?
I think so. I think that it's a matter of perception, and I think that for a long time that I thought I had crossed the line of no return, which is another reason why I wanted to write this book.
Yeah.
Because I never thought that I would live past 18, then 21. I never thought I'd see 30, and I'm 39 now. So it was really important for me to document a lot of these situations and a lot of the people and the heroes that affected my life, especially the people that were involved in nonprofit work,
right?
Outreach centers, youth homeless shelters, just anybody that contributes to the benefit of others.
Right.
I thought it was really important because they did in my life.
Yes.
That I document that.
And yeah, there's a wealth of information that's part of your story. And in we have a whole half hour, and we're only going to be able to touch on certain aspects. And it's. I told you before the show that I've been recommending, say, read this book.
Right.
Yeah, it's just. Like I said, I read it in one sitting just because it was gripping, and I'm grateful that you made it here to be able to tell your story.
Thank you. I am too, actually.
So That's a good thing.
Well, I need to tell you that I wrote the book, but I didn't write the book. I mean, there was definitely some energy flowing through me to help me do this. You know, it was a very healing experience. It was a very cathartic experience. But I definitely was very in touch with my past and the players in my past. And I think a lot of those angels came back to help me write this because I believe that I captured their personalities pretty well.
Okay.
And
just to give a little glimpse inside the book, some of the people that you write about, maybe pick one or two standout people from your past that you paint a portrait of with your writing. Who are they, and what is a little bit of their story?
Well, the first one I'll talk about is Lulu, who was a girl that I met on the streets, who was a lesbian, and she was a protector of many of the kids on the streets. She was a no-nonsense girl,
Okay.
and she stood up to anybody, cops, pimps. She didn't care who you were. You know, if you laid a hand on any of us, she was there to help.
Okay.
And so she's somebody that I really wanted to be able to document. She was the star of the movie Streetwise that was nominated for Academy Award in 1984. We'll talk a little bit about in that.
Right, and you have a bit of a cameo in there.
Yeah, I was in there too. So it was really important for me to capture her because she played an integral part of my life, as far as coming out and that kind of stuff. So,
and then just through your journey on the street, it's pretty much. I imagine that it's pretty much just a slide.
Right.
And where does that slide lead?
Well, I think death is the ultimate, destination for anyone that's going through that situation. I think that anyone to get out of it is miraculous.
Right. Well, you write about a few beacons along the side of the road on that journey, and who or what position are some of these people of hope that people in that situation can pass along the way?
Right. What are they? Yeah, I think they come in many forms, and I think it's where do we see it at? And I think that I found my hope and inspiration in many people along the way, from the outreach worker that I talk about, to Lulu, who I talk about, to my brothers, who I talk about, to even my father, who I never spoke to or got along with until his passing, which was a very defining moment in my life. So he became a hero to me in the end. So I think that we need to look for it and be able to recognize it, because they're everywhere. It could be something that we see on TV that could provide some inspiration, or a TV host, that could be our hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We gotta look for it. We gotta see it. We gotta open up our minds and listen to what's going on, and it's there.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of people out there doing a lot of good things. And again, your journey took you to some pretty dark places that you do document, and you're here, and you've turned that around. I mean, through telling your story, you're helping people. You also do some outreach and volunteering.
I do some mentoring.
Okay.
And I do some committee work. Yeah, that's I think being of service at any capacity is really important for anyone, and that's another intention of that why I wanted to write this book, to inspire people, anybody who reads it, whether it's a housewife in Michigan, to get involved and to help at some kind of level. And I think that even President Obama is talking about being of service in our communities and stepping up to the plate and going painting a wall at a homeless shelter or whatever it is that you can do, whatever you can provide. It's really important that we do that and just kind of get out of ourselves for a minute to help others, because that's how the miracle happens.
Right. And do you see anything that can be done to prevent someone from telling their story as your story, 10 years from now, going through the same thing?
I had this discussion with somebody when I was in Washington, D.C., who works at a high-level nonprofit organization, and we were talking about preventing homelessness. And I think that there's a lot that we can do to do that. I think it's important that I think everyone has a story. whether they've lived on the streets or whatever they've done, or whether they've received a doctorate and had a a pretty easy life. We may think it's easy, but they've had their challenges.
Right.
Everybody does. It doesn't matter who you are. You don't have to live on the streets to go through stuff. So I think that it's important for anybody who has the tenacity to be able to sit down and really define, like what's made a difference in their lives, to be able to share it with others, because that's how we inspire others. We learn from each other.
Right.
So.
I think one of the reasons why I enjoyed reading your story so much is because you came out of it, but so many of my situations were different from your situations,
right.
but so many of the thoughts, the emotions,
right.
and just the processes are points that I think just about anybody can find some of those in your story,
right.
and say if I had turned left instead of right,
Mm-hmm.
the story would have been, our stories would have been a lot
Sure.
more similar.
I think that's why I'm experiencing a level of success with the book, is because I think that's where we relate. It's not necessarily in what we go through, but it's definitely in the feelings that we feel, where we relate, and in the healing. So, yeah.
So, so further through your journey, there were people who helped you out when you were at a point where you were. Well, at what point did you become willing to accept help?
I'd felt many times that I had hit bottom, and then I wasn't sure whether I'd hit bottom. And I remember somebody telling me, well, if you're not sure you hit bottom, then keep digging. And that stuck in my mind. But I had more of a spiritual experience where it was just the end of the line for me. I had been living on the streets and doing drugs for more than half my life at one point. And it just wasn't a very good feeling. I didn't feel good, And I wanted to feel good. I wanted to have a good life. And I wanted to help people. I'm not a bad guy. I don't think any of us are bad people.
Yeah.
I think we're taught to do bad things and taught to survive and
Right.
do what we need to do. But I definitely wanted to change my life, and I had a taste of it before. So it was just the end of the line for me. Yeah, I had destroyed my body. I had destroyed my spirit. And it was really the end of the line, as far as like I either needed to kill myself or I needed to pull it together, and I chose to pull it together.
I'm glad you did.
Thank you. I am too.
If you were to talk to a parent now who's having a volatile relationship with a child, what sort of guidance would you want to provide?
Well, I'm not a doctor, but what I would
just from your life experience.
From my life experience, I would have them maybe do some research in their relationship and find out what's going on, because if there's some conflict, there's some underlying issues that need to be dealt with, and there maybe needs to be some compromise along the way with their child, and it's definitely something that can be fixed. But if any parent is willing to get help, then I think they're on a good path.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people think that we can just do it and that we don't need anybody's help. And I think sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot when we do that. I think we really need to have open minds and, be able to come out outside of that small box and say, okay, what do I do?
I mean, I know one of the hardest lessons that I learned in my life was how to ask for help.
Right. Absolutely.
And I guess that's where I started feeling like an adult. And when I learned how to ask for help. Yeah. And I don't want someone to carry me through life, but sometimes you need a hand.
Yeah, you do. And I think a lot of the help that I had to ask for was more, Street Child is a spiritual journey. Like, everybody wanted to help me. All my human friends wanted to help me, and they would have all done it. There's the judge in there that would have done it. There's my mother who would have done it. There's my aunt who would have done it. My cousins. If any of them could have fixed me, they would have, but they couldn't. It wasn't in their realm of possibility. It was really something that I needed to seek. And I needed to seek outside of myself. And what I mean by that is more of a accessing spiritual laws, which talk a little bit about. It's not a spiritual guide or anything like that, but there was definitely a journey that I needed to take in order for me to be more in touch with who I am and what my place is in the universe, and that kind of helped me be to where I'm at today.
All right. Say at the end of your journey, years and years from now, what gift do you want the world to have received from your life?
From my life?
Yes. What do you want to leave behind?
What do I want to leave behind? I just want to see people more awake. I want to see people more awake. I think we can get caught up in our day-to-day lives, and we can get really lost on outcomes. And I think once I've learned to enjoy the journey, my life has become really, really wonderful. And it's not perfect, but it's pretty amazing.
More good days than bad?
More good days than bad. And even when they're bad, I recognize the good, because the good is everywhere at all times. We just got to be able to see it, and I get to see that a lot of the bad stuff that I can presume that is bad are lessons that I need to learn, which gets me to the good.
And sharing the way that you learned your lessons will help others.
I hope so.
I believe that.
I hope so. That's the intention,
So, and where can people find out more about the book and you and your story?
Well, right now the book's available on Amazon.com.
Okay.
They can also go to my website, which is streetchildmemoir.com.
Okay.
They can also go to
spell that out for them.
STREETCHILDMEMOIR.com.
Okay.
They can also go to justinreadearly.com.
Okay.
And they can also go to justinearly.com. They all redirect to the same website.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's also available at barnesandnoble.com, target.com.
So it's out there.
It's out
Google
there.
it, you'll find it,
It's
and
out there.
there's
It'll be in bookstores soon. So,
Okay.
But you can order it from a bookstore too. If you go to your bookstore, they'll
No,
order it for you.
Again, I am really grateful that you told your story, that you lived to tell your story, and that you're here sharing it with me and with our audience. And I highly, highly recommend reading the book. If any of those places, at your local library, ask your library to order it. And we are just about out of time. I am so grateful once again. Justin Reed Early, I'm John Griffith. We will see you next time. Talking About .info is our website. Links, shows, watch. Thank you.